All right, here he is from the Aztecs basketball team. Head coach Steve Fisher returns to the Scott and BR show. Good morning, Coach.
Hello, Scott, BR.
How are you today, Coach?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Yeah, what a recovery game. I mean, I guess it helps when you come home and you've got a sold-out house and you're playing against a team like Wyoming, which, frankly, they're just not up to San Diego State standards this season. It was a great recovery win, though, after the loss against BYU.
No question about it. I was very thankful for the fact that we were playing at home, and we caught Wyoming there. They are not quite as good. They've got some injuries, yet that's the same Wyoming team that beat New Mexico, who beat BYU. So it's a nutty business that we're in, but it was really comforting to come home and play in front of that crowd.
Yeah, Coach, it had to have made you very proud of your guys. I mean, they came out there and really didn't show any adverse effects from the loss. I mean, it was really a great performance.
They really did, BR. They had the kind of resiliency that you expect, really. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do, but it's not always there. And you guys both know that it doesn't take much, just a little bit, and sometimes it's the subconscious. You don't even realize you're not going quite as hard as you did the game before. That's all the difference in the world. It makes all the difference in the world. But from the opening tip, when Malcolm tipped it to Billy White and he took it down and laid it in, and the 14-0 run to start the game, we were really energized and focused on that game.
Coach, everybody always talks about Malcolm and Billy and DJ because they're seniors, and they talk about Carwell because he's a senior too, and they talk about Kawhi because he was kind of that blue-chip recruit. Everybody always seems to forget about Chase Tapley, and man, was he awesome on Saturday night. I mean, hitting threes, dunking the basketball. He moved around. He scored in the paint. I mean, the guy did it all on Saturday night, and for those who have kind of forgotten that fifth man in that starting rotation, I mean, boy, he put up some performance.
Wasn't he terrific? He had a career-high 24 points. He scored in every fashion imaginable, from the threes to the floaters to the dunks. And what else he did, which is really the key for us winning, he did a really solid job defensively, both on the ball and then as a help defender. And Chase was sensational. I don't know whether or not others have forgotten about him, but you're right. So often we start talking, and he's the last guy to be mentioned, but he's a big-time player. He was the player of the year in Northern California, and he knows how to score the basketball, and he's proven that not just Saturday night, but he had a spectacular game Saturday.
So, Coach, what was your system? What was your plan to get these guys back on the floor against Wyoming and to have that kind of performance and to bounce back and show everybody that they're still the Aztecs and they're still doing it on the basketball court?
The plain and simple plan to come back, and we talked about we practiced Thursday when we got back. Nobody was in the mood to practice, but they came out and we had a really good effort. And we talk about things. We talk about others who have gone back-to-back losses. That's been one of the trademarks of our team over the last couple of years. When we lose a game, we find a way to win the next one, and the importance of it. And, you know, we got a lot of season that he's still left to play. So nothing magical, just I think the quality of the kids is most important in terms of their willingness to move forward and keep going.
Talking to Coach Steve Fisher from the San Diego State basketball program. San Diego State lost last week to BYU. Then they came back. They crushed Wyoming 96-57 Saturday night at Viejas Arena. By the way, while that was happening, BYU was losing on the road to New Mexico. And so many other teams, Coach, along the way lost, whether it was Duke or Pitt, who are in front of you, or Connecticut, Villanova, Syracuse, who are behind you. So I don't know how much you really, really care about the polls, but I don't think San Diego State's going to drop down that far after that loss against BYU.
It'll be interesting. It really will. You said it. So many teams that are rated in the top 20, top 25 did not win, and they made a big deal out of all of them losing to non-rated teams. Well, there's not a whole lot of difference between a rated team and a guy that thinks he should be rated. So I have not heard. I'm sure the polls will come out shortly, and we'll find out where we are.
Right on. We're talking to Coach Fisher. Hey, Coach, As far as the crowd Saturday night, I was just telling Billy Ray, I didn't get there until maybe 5 minutes before tip. I was running from a youth basketball game all the way up in North County, and I got there and I went, man, there's no traffic here. I wonder if Wyoming's not sexy or people are down after the loss against BYU. Just the opposite. It's like everybody's there early and the place is already buzzing. It's no late arriving crowd. So this home court advantage has become huge for San Diego State.
It really has, Scott. They are there, and as you said, Saturdays are a little bit easier because you don't have the classes and the night traffic that's going back and forth. But they were there, and they were there early, and they were engaged. And they enjoy, I think our fans, starting with the students, enjoy all the theatrics that go into the pregame stuff. And you made reference to it. I heard a little bit of it. I've yet to watch the scoreboard to see what exactly comes on it, but I know everybody enjoys it, and our fans once again were sensational with how they interacted and got involved and stayed involved.
Coach, I just got to laugh though because I'm watching you during this pregame, and the kids are dancing, and the Tim Shelton video comes on, and you just are like, whatever. Just you guys want to dance around, have a good time, and all the pregame. Go ahead, have a good time. And you seem to be very accepting of it, although not necessarily engaged in the middle of it.
I think that in today's world, and I'm old enough to remember when you didn't even have player introductions, but I'm also smart enough to know that everything involved is part of the event that people enjoy. And we're obviously not the Lone Ranger. Everybody now does some form or fashion of what we do for the player introduction. And the more people that are there, the more raucous and loud the crowd and involved the crowd is, the more enjoyable it is for everyone. Yeah,
and Coach, I looked at you late in the game, and you got a young man on this team who doesn't get to play quite that much, but he's a young player. Jamal Franklin, and he's a 6'5" kid, and he's kind of a wiry-bodied guy, and he can jump through the roof, and he tried to pull off a dunk. I mean, the game was way out of reach, where he put the ball between his legs and then went over his head. He didn't get it down, but the bench erupted, and I looked over at you, and you just kind of had this look like, thankfully this game is way, way in control. Otherwise, I'm not sure I would have allowed that to go.
Scott, that was inappropriate, and as much as I love them to have fun in that fashion, I think in some small respect it shows disrespect for your opponent. Not that you can't have fun, and not that a dunk would not have been fashionable, but and I talked to Jamal a little bit about it. He's a great young guy, and you know what it's like not to have the opportunity to play very much and work so hard in practice. Sometimes you get going and you don't even know what you're doing out there half the time.
You don't think about the opponent at that point. I mean, you want to be respectful. You're beating them up by 40 points, but it's like, here's my chance.
Absolutely, absolutely. He meant it in no disrespectful way at all. He did not mean it that way, but I think it can be construed that way if you're sitting on that other bench a little bit.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but listen, in the very final analysis, Coach, when you look back to last week, so you go to BYU, you know what? DJ doesn't have a great night shooting. Billy and Malcolm don't have great nights scoring. Kawhi plays maybe the game of his career, but he's sick as a dog. Jimmer Fredette goes absolutely crazy, can't miss a shot. And you guys are still very much alive in that game, given that environment. I think you walk out of that game, and you walk out of last week feeling real good about where this team is.
We were immensely disappointed. We expected to win. We expected to go in and find a way to get a win, and we couldn't. We didn't. And to their credit, for that game that night, they were the better team. And Fredette was sensational. We could not stop him. When he needed a basket, he got it. Your point's well taken. With 4:30 to go, it's a 4-point game. And we just couldn't make enough plays, couldn't make some plays. And I think a lot of that has to do with your opponents. So the tip of the hat in that one, the BYU. But we will have an opportunity in our building on February 26th, and hopefully we will, forgive but not forget what happened in that game.
Right on. Coach, great talking to you. The students are already in line in front of the Viejas Arena this morning waiting to get their hands on tickets for upcoming games. You got TCU coming on February 5th, but you got a tough game before that. Can you just very briefly give us a little bit on Colorado State, because they're a pretty good team, right?
I'm going to say better than pretty good team. They have 2 losses, or 1 game behind ourselves and BYU, and their losses were a very, very close loss in the pit against New Mexico, a game they could have won, and then at home against BYU, where they led part of the game, got way behind, and cut it back to 6 with the ball late in the game. They're good. They may be the most improved team in our league, and you remember last year we had beaten them twice and just escaped with a 2-point victory in the conference tournament, the first round of the conference tournament. They're led by Andy Ogady, their big fifth-year senior, and he is a ton. He had a career high in their last game of, I think, 24 against Utah, made a couple of threes. Franklin is undersized 4-man who couldn't make a free throw last year but got to the line 15 times a game, and this year he's shooting 75%. Green is their point guard, who I really like. They have an Iowa State transfer that shoots the ball. You remember the name Nigon, the walk-on that's now a scholarship and is a deadly three-point shooter. And you throw that, they're going to have 8,500 in their arena on Wednesday. They had that against BYU. We've not seen that in my tenure here. So they're going to have a huge crowd. They think they can win the league. And their goal, I know, I've talked to Tim Miles, and I really like him. He's a wonderful guy, quick-witted, and he's the greatest interview in our league for the coaches. And he thinks he's got a chance to make the NCAA tournament. And obviously, this game is going to be really huge for both teams. But they're very, very good. They are leading the league in field goal percentage now, and they score the ball in a lot of ways.
Coach, we look forward to Wednesday night when San Diego State goes on the road to play Colorado State. We're on our way to Dallas for the Super Bowl. So, Coach, before you go, who do you got in the Super Bowl?
Well, if I wanted to be a smart aleck, I would say who's playing, but I know who's playing. I'll be a fan. I told Angie yesterday, we didn't practice. I said, this is the first time in 5 months there hasn't been a pro football game on TV that we could kind of, relax a little bit and watch. I don't know. I don't have a true rooting interest with either team, so I hope it goes overtime.
Right. But you got to love the matchup, Coach. Come on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know you're pressed for time. My first year as a coach, 1968, the best player on our high school team, I was at Rich East High School. He was only 2 years younger than I was. Went on to play, I think, 17 years for the Green Bay Packers. His name is Larry McCarron, starting center for the Packers. When you go there, you ask around, ask where Larry McCarron is. Get McCarron to come on your radio show, and he can talk about some of the good old days when he was lifting weights in my apartment an hour and a half before he was supposed to get married. So I guess I got a little bit of an interest in, because of my linkage with McCarron, to say I maybe hope the Packers win, but I'll be watching like a fan.
Hey, guys, write that name down, Larry McCarron. I got to hear the stories about lifting weights in Coach Fisher's apartment an hour and a half before his wedding.
Preparing for the walk down the aisle.
About this. Hey,
Larry
Coach
McCarron, I think he still holds the Packers streak for consecutive games started. He was not just a part-time player; he was a center on their team and was a terrific pro player. All
right, we got to look into this guy. We got to talk to him. Hey, Coach, before you go, you spent the whole day yesterday chilling out with your wife. Did you watch any of the Farmers?
You know what? I normally I would have. I watched a little bit of some of the basketball games that were on. I caught the last half of the Duke St. John's game, and I saw just the last 2 holes of the tournament with Watson and Mickelson. It was interesting, but normally I would have watched the whole last day, but I really didn't see that much of it.
Yeah, that's all you needed was those last 2 holes. Coach, great talking to you. Thank you very much for the time. Good luck Wednesday, and we'll hopefully be catching up with you from Dallas.
Okay, guys, I'll be tuning in. I'll be tuning in to you in Dallas, and look forward to getting back here, hopefully with 2 victories when I talk to you again.
Yes, sir. We'll talk to you soon, Coach. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Coach Steve Fisher.